I just met you, and I think that you would be a really good person to ask this question. It, can a mind exist without a brain?
Well, I just want to say I think your project is really cool. I mean, from just a community point of view, just like what you described, and why you took it on. I mean, I feel that really that's what we got to do to defend democracy. We got to contribute to our communities in constructive ways, you know.
Yeah.
And being an activist isn't for everybody, you know. It's not for everybody. It's not, you know, marching and protesting and writing. I mean, you know, there's many ways to sort of contribute, but this is a really unique way to contribute. And I admire it.
I really appreciate you stopping and just being curious about it. That's great. Yeah.
You caught me with a hook there.
So, what was your name again? Blaine?
Blaine. B-L-A-I-N-E.
All right. B-L-A-I-N-E. Blaine. Mm-hmm. Awesome. My name's David. Cool. So
4 good friends named David. Dave.
You do? Yeah, it's kind of a common
great name.
I had a recent conversation with another person named David, and when I was making the videos, kind of funny because it's like David explores with David.
Yeah. They're all cool people, actually, too.
Oh, good. Yeah. That's good to know.
One of them's the music director at King FM in Seattle. He's a classical music expert.
And you know him pretty well?
Yeah, I know him quite well, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So just to recap what we're doing, and just make sure it's okay if I record and upload this on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
You can decide at the end if you don't want me to upload it. I can delete it. So
got it.
What I'm doing here is I'm practicing what's called street epistemology.
Okay. Street epistemology.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's where we. It's basically.
Is it a genre? Like other people do it too?
Yeah, there's other people all over the world that also do this. Some informally, some formally. But yeah, it's a way to have a friendly and consensual conversation where we explore the sufficiency of the reasons and the reliability of the methods that somebody uses to be confident in a conclusion that they think is true. And so basically the way this works is I'll have you choose a conclusion or a belief or a claim that you think is true. And my goal is for reflection to be made about your epistemology, the way that you arrived at this conclusion.
Right.
And so I'll be asking questions trying to be from a neutral perspective so that we can get a better understanding of that.
Yeah.
So, do you have a claim that you want to explore?
Well, I guess the one that comes to mind is the what I was talking about how living systems are mental systems, or that life and mind are the same, essentially the same thing.
Life and
In other
mind
words,
are the same.
Minds are part of living systems. Living systems exhibit mental characteristics.
Living systems exhibit mental characteristics.
So you have to define what, yeah. Or living systems are mental systems. Or living systems have minds.
Living systems have minds. Is that the one you want to choose?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Living systems
So, yeah.
have minds.
This may or not.
Um,
Or a living system is a mental system.
okay.
Both are true both ways. A
Okay.
mental system is a living system. A living system is a mental system. Kind of, yeah.
Okay. A living system is a mental system. Does that sound
Yeah,
good?
either way. Either way.
I'll just put this. Just so we stay on
You
track.
could do for the peanut gallery.
Nope, this is yours.
Oh, we peanuts think you're both doing great.
Oh, thanks. And then we'll have to yeah. Make sure.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
ready when you are.
So, a living system is a mental system.
Yeah.
So, how are we defining a living system?
Well, that's not an easy thing to do, but it has to do with its material organization. Yeah.
Okay. Material.
So organization is everything.
Okay.
Anything that's organized in this manner would exhibit mental characteristics, essentially.
Okay. There's mental characteristics
So
inside of a living organization.
a computer, for example, is not a mental system because it's not organized the way a living system is organized.
Okay.
So people think the computer can think, and it can. I mean, it can in a certain simulated way, but it can't reproduce itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is
And
that the main difference?
One of the main differences between a machine and an organism is that organisms reproduce themselves.
Okay.
Their reason for being is to reproduce.
Okay.
But a computer's reason for being is essentially to do work that they're designed for,
Okay.
that humans design them to do.
Okay.
So this is also kind of a discussion between what's a machine and what's an organism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're saying that it's the reproduction, that's the main difference between a machine and a
That's one
and
of the
an
main
organism?
differences for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
That the way an organism is made or organized is to reproduce itself. Autopoiesis, self-making.
Okay.
That's its sort of way of existing in the world.
So is a living system a mental system because of the reproduction part?
Reproduction is not only the idea, it's self-making, that everything in the organism is set up for maintaining itself and then reproducing itself.
Okay.
So its whole being is self-production or self-making.
That's the purpose of its being, is the reproduction?
Is the maintaining of itself and reproducing itself.
Purpose. Okay. Okay. Cool. So
That starts.
Got
Jim-
someone. Terry.
generally speaking,
Sorry, you guys.
on a scale, I've got a scale here from
Okay.
0 to 100, 50 being in the middle. Generally speaking, how important is it to you that your conclusions about the world are accurate?
how important.
Like, how important is it for you to believe true things?
To me, accuracy only exists within a certain framework.
Mhm.
So within this framework, I'm 100% confident. But not everybody is aware or shares this framework or this, particular perspective or way of thinking. So outside of that, I'm not confident at all.
Okay.
But within this framework, I'm 100% confident
You're 100% confident.
that it's an accurate way of seeing things.
Okay, this
Yeah.
claim?
Yeah.
You're 100% confident in this claim.
Yeah, if you take this perspective.
Okay.
But if you take another perspective, like you take a perspective of maybe standard biology, you would not maybe come to this conclusion. You know
Okay.
what I mean, right? I mean, there are different epistemologies in the
Yeah.
world, right?
Yeah.
Just like there are different metaphysics, different epistemologies, and ontology is, what is being and so forth. And so people sometimes unknowingly enter a particular epistemology or particular metaphysic, and they don't acknowledge it. They just go and try to prove things within that framework. And what I'm saying is that there are other frameworks by which this would not be valid.
There's a different way of approaching this idea that may not be as reliable as the way that you're approaching.
You would look at things. You would look at living systems and non-living systems in different ways and come to different conclusions. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you think of an example of this claim happening in the world?
Right around us. Every living thing around us, is organized to reproduce itself.
Okay.
Right? Everything here is organized, in a sense to grow, make copies of itself, continue itself, and it comes from an entire history of, what they call phylogeny or, phylogenetic history of the species, doing that.
Uh-huh.
And
So the geese that we were
Yep.
looking at before,
Yeah.
that's an example of a mental system
Yeah.
based on its purpose of reproduction and maintaining itself?
Well, so there are different types of, there are different ways to look at, organization. There's simple examples of it, like a single cell would be the simplest example of an organism that is meant to reproduce itself. But as you go up into multi-cell organisms and then more complex organisms with vertebrae and so forth, and you have different levels and ways and strategies for reproducing yourself and for maintaining. That's why we eat. We eat to maintain our bodies. Our bodies have to live and so forth. So. Yeah.
This claim is
Yeah.
evident because of biology. Would you say that?
Biology, the science of biology has, shown many things about living systems, and we know a lot.
Like in cell theory and stuff.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
DNA, and why do things reproduce? How do they reproduce? Why,
Okay.
various categories of living things and so forth. And, they're distinguished by their difference from non-living things.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, your understanding of biology informs your confidence that living systems have minds.
Biology and systems theory. So systems theory is a kind of a interdisciplinary science that looks at all kinds of systems: social systems, biological systems, ecology, which would be ecosystems, economic
Different systems working together.
Yeah, and so they look at principles across systems, and like flows. What are flows within? A biological system, flows within an economic system, flows within a social system, like flows of communication and information and so forth. Flows of goods and services in an economy, flows of matter and energy between an organism and its environment. So systems theory is a general overlook of of what biology is part of. Biology fits, sort of is one of other disciplines. So
Okay.
yeah.
And you said earlier that there are ways to arrive at a conclusion that isn't this one. Is there an example of
so for example, there are a lot of, my brother, for example. My brother is a biologist, and he teaches in a university, and he would not really subscribe to this because he's not interested in minds. He doesn't care about mental things. He doesn't care about consciousness. What he cares about is biology and molecules, and figuring out whether this plant is the same as that plant or whether they're different. And he gets down to the molecular level, and that's all he's interested in. Mm-hmm. He doesn't care about minds. And he has a certain paradigm and a certain way of thinking that is, good for that kind of biologist. Mm-hmm. So the concerns that I have with this, he doesn't have. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about it. So he's a scientist, but he is not interested in mind and matter, or mind and body, or how they fit together. It's just not his concern. So
he's looking at the empiricism of.
Yeah, he's looking at everything from a more sort of third person, molecular, biological, materialist, reductionist kind of thing.
Okay.
So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Which is fine. I mean, it's a perspective, and it's not wrong, and this is not right. It's just you take a different focus.
Do you think this is true?
True within the framework that I'm talking of, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you
if
say
you're going to look
true-
at mind and life and try and figure it out, what is a mental system and what is a non-mental system, what has consciousness, what doesn't, if you're going to start looking at that stuff, you're going to start separating out, well, hey, this bench doesn't, I would say this bench is not conscious.
Uh-huh. Got it.
But you right there, me right here, we're having we're conscious, and I would say the ducks are conscious, and they're maybe, not like we are, because they're not humans, they don't have, so forth. So.
I just met you, and I think that you would be a really good person to ask this question. Can a mind exist without a brain?
Well, again, you have to kind of define your terms.
Yeah.
A brain is part of an organism, and I would say a brain, so from the perspective I'm talking about, a brain is not the only part of a mind. So your mind is part of your brain, your body, and your environment. Without those three things, you can't have a mind. So a living organism that is, that has a nervous system, which has a brain, that's an important part of having that type of consciousness. And it's also housed in a body, and that body is an essential, you can't have just a brain in a vat.
Uh-huh. A brain in a vat is not an example of a mind.
No.
Okay. A mind requires...
An amoeba?
Sorry, just throwing in, what about an amoeba?
What about an amoeba?
Speak to the amoeba and its amoeba consciousness.
So amoeba consciousness, so an amoeba is a very simple organism, but it's self-reproducing like we were talking about, and it also exists in an environment.
I'm prompting.
Yes.
So a mind could exist
but it's
with
very
just
simple
the
mind.
amoeba.
Very, very, very simple.
An amoeba mind.
An amoeba mind. So it's a living thing, so it exhibits very rudimentary, we would not really even call it a mental system, it's more like a sentient, because it moves away from, it moves towards food, it moves
Reacts
away
to stimuli.
Yeah, it reacts to stimuli, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it reproduces itself.
Okay.
And it self-maintains itself.
Got it.
Yeah.
So we decided that you're 100% confident that this is true.
Within that framework. Within the framework we're talking about, yeah.
And
within,
the framework...
like say within a systems theory framework.
Okay. And there are frameworks that this would not necessarily be...
like my brother's
true.
framework. Like for my brother, who is a standard scientist.
Okay.
Who doesn't really care about... all he cares about is material stuff, in this case biological, in his case particularly plant material, plants and plant. He doesn't care about consciousness. He doesn't care whether plants think or whether they have sentience or blah blah blah. He only cares about whether this plant is the same as that plant, and whether these plants are grouped together here, and whether those are grouped together there, and whether characteristics and their structure, and blah blah blah, all that.
This is your brother.
Yeah, my brother.
Would he say that his conclusion is true?
Of course, yeah, because he's a scientist and he has all kinds of data, and other people who are working on stuff, and he has the entire, discipline of biology to support him in what he's saying. I mean, yeah, there's people who would argue that certain approaches to biology are better than others. There's two types of people who do plant studies, and some people say it's better to do this type, and other people say it's better to do that type. So they argue within themselves, but they don't care about this stuff.
Okay. Can both conclusions, because you're saying this is true within your system,
Yeah.
and he's saying his conclusion is true within his
We're gonna have
system.
to, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, he would. He would. Mhm.
Okay. Last question.
Okay.
Could you use this system that you're using to arrive at false conclusions?
False conclusions, like how? Like
Conclusions that you would think are not true.
Oh, sure. I mean, any system that anything that rational system that bases itself in science and experiment and testing and evidence is going to find things are true and false. And
Okay.
yeah.
So you're 100% confident in a claim that, and you're using systems
theory.
that could be used to arrive at false conclusions.
I'm saying that within a systems theory framework of trying to understand the difference between living things and non-living things, or mental things and non-mental things, that you're going to come up against things that are true and things that are false about when you're trying to come up with better understandings of these things. So sure, there's things you're going to find that are true and false.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. You say you have to go.
Yeah, I think we better.
Cool.
Because we're together, and
That was great.
Terry drove. So
That was great. Thanks so much for hanging out.
Yeah.
I vote for a second installment someday. And you got all the framework set. Now you're ready to go.
That sounds great.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
Part two.
now we can think about it a little bit more. And
And
Part two.
is the
Yeah.
systems theory framework superior to the taxonomy framework?
which one should we
Oh,
use?
I-
Which one should
Or
we
just
use if
or.
No,
if
it's
we
not.
want?
There's not about superiority. It's like what is your goal?
But the systems
Yeah.
theory framework would incorporate the taxonomy. It's like not exclusive of the taxonomy
Yeah.
framework. So within the systems, within his framework of what's alive and what's not, in those alive things, you can still have your taxonomical
Yeah.
distinctions. His brother's work still fits there, but it's almost like a bigger outer circle than the inner circle.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Systems theory
Does
is a
that make
very
sense?
generalized science, and it's meant to capture
So
things
flip it
that.
over, it's the bigger
'cause-
picture. It's not an either or. With
I want to use the one that is most reliable to arrive at conclusions that are factually accurate.
well, they
that-
both are.
that-
They both are. Yeah, they both are. Yeah, it's
They're
just
not
that.
against each other. It's just
They're not against each other. It's that the recognition in systems theory, which actually kind of got started around the time of World War II, is that everything is over specialized and things are missed when people focus on only one thing. And if you're a physicist and you're only focusing on quantum stuff, you're missing stuff that's biologists are so anyway, systems theory arose to sort of kind of get past some of the things that people were missing because they were too over specialized.
But it incorporates all that.
But it incorporates all that,
within
yeah.
systems thinking,
Exactly.
When you're looking at
It doesn't say
trees
that-
as being self-reproducing
Yeah.
organisms,
Yeah.
within that to do a taxonomy and,
Yeah.
and decide which trees go in which phylum and
It's a
genus and all that. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But I think you would say
It fits
that
right into science.
But that systems theory is a bigger
Yes.
net.
Yeah, I've tried to
And
have
taxonomy of
conversations with my
plants.
brother about systems
just
theory,
doesn't
and he
care.
just kind of, blanks out. Because all he cares about is his specialty.
Yeah, he's very black and white.
Yeah.
He only cares about his specialty, and that's fine. I mean, we need specialists because that's that's the only place you can do that kind of work.
You're inviting other ways of looking at the same thing using a different kind of perspective to explain it in a different way.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I'm
but
saying
it's not even explaining it in a different way.
No.
It's just putting more detail on it.
Okay.
Because he's
So,
not
like-
saying, well, except he's not even talking about whether it's mind or not. Like, that's not even part of the picture, so it's not really a different way. But systems theory wouldn't say there's anything wrong or off about whether this is a
Taxonomy.
Myrtle or a this or a that.
yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
the thing with systems theory is it's big enough and flexible enough that you're not going to pin them down.
Are you open to this not being true?
What? Not be true.
Your claim that living systems have minds, or that a living system is a mental system,
From another standpoint, sure. Yeah.
but not
From
from your standpoint.
No. I mean, because it's coherent and consistent within its framework, and it's been, thought about by hundreds, if not thousands, of great minds who have done unbelievable work, and there's a giant literature on it, and it has many, so within that, I wouldn't.
You're pretty firm.
Totally.
Cool.
I mean, it's like is water H2O or HN3?
You're welcome to take one of these puzzle pieces.
Okay.
The idea is, next time we have a chat, you can get another one and build out the whole set.
Well, hey,
Does that make sense?
sounds good.
So which
A whole set
Sure.
of 3.
With that,
Yeah. If you have one, if you have a
Primary
chat,
colors.
then you'll be able to get one too, and you can build out your own set.
yeah, that's an incentive.
That is.
right.
That's a great
No, I think what you're doing is really cool, Dave.
Yeah,
It's really just the whole concept of it and how it integrates into the community is really
And thank you for putting your time and energy into such a thing.
totally.
And putting yourself out there, because I'm sure you get all sorts of, once you nail somebody down, you're going to have all sorts of conversations.
Yeah, the idea is just putting a pebble in their shoe for them to think
Good.
about it on their own,
Yeah.
because people don't necessarily change their mind in a 10-minute conversation.
Right.
It can happen a week from now, or at least just think more deeply about it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily changing their mind, but
Yeah.
giving them the space to
Yeah.
explore it in maybe ways that they haven't.
That's a huge gift to give somebody, just a chance to really think deeply about, what they think. Because a lot of times people don't ever get a chance. And with some of us, like Terry and I, we talk about, we're in a Buddhist group together, and, we talk about deep stuff all the time, don't we, Terry?
It's
Well,
very
thanks so
deep
much
talk.
for stopping. It's
Yeah.
been awesome chatting.
Yeah.
Likewise, yeah.
Not probably what you expected. On
You've
your,
got
And,
that perfect filter, the word epistemology. I mean, I'm sure the traffic splits pretty
Who is that
clearly.
weirdo?
Yeah, it's,
Right.
Like you said, it's a conversation starter.
Exit here.
Indeed. So, I don't know if you want to take,
Your info?
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe my email, and then
I'm gonna write it down here.
I can set
and
you
then
up.
I'm gonna put it in my phone once
Okay.
I stop recording.
Yeah, and then I can set you up with
You want me to text you?
meeting Jim. Yeah, that'd be fine.
And I'm gonna bleep that out in the recording so that your phone number is not all over the
Oh yeah,
internet.
sounds good. Yeah, that would be really nice.
And you're still cool if I upload it?
Yeah, sure. I mean,
Okay.
if you want to send it to me, should I
Link-
see it first before?
link it.
peanut
Okay.
gallery in it too.
It's up to you.
That's
In case you can do anything
I'll
worse.
probably not.
Good.
I'll probably keep you folks out of it.
good.
I don't think
Um,
we added much.
Yeah, yeah. It's best if it's kind of a one-on-one.
Yeah.
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 Good.
Yeah.
Sorry
Well,
for
just send me
the-
what you got, and I'll have a look. And
You want me to send it to you before I upload it?
Sure.
sure.
I can
Sure.
definitely do
That'd
that.
be great.
Okay, I'll text you and I'll get your email and stuff.
Okay, yeah, because
And-
actually, I'd love to see how you edit it and how, what comes out actually out of it.
Sure. Yeah, and maybe next time we'll be able to explore some of the other questions I had.
Sounds good, Dave.
Yeah.
Really great
Good
to
luck.
meet you.
Enjoy
Take
your-
care.
Yeah. Great
Enjoy
to
the
meet
rest
you.
of the day.
Yes, I hope you
I hope you get a bunch of live wires today.
It's really coming down.